Hello and welcome to Freeze Peaches HBR Talk 39. And we're going to be 39 for every HBR talk thereafter because I'm not going to turn 40. Oh wait, I'm already 46. Okay, never mind. This one is another kind of. Oh, how did I get the wrong freaking link?
Oh no.
Okay.
I actually found it remarkable that the amount of vocal and auditory chaos that was going on and then immediate silence and then technical
I
issues.
just don't understand why my dog is currently eating a Waddy Kleenex and not the food in her bowl.
Well,
Is there
you guys
something
get
in a
to watch me
Kleenex?
find the link to this because
Snot.
obviously I
There's snot in
included
the
the link to
Kleenex,
the wrong
Oh,
Alice.
story.
There's
God.
usually snot in the Kleenex.
I
Oh
posted
my
the link in the
God.
chat.
This
The dog is eating
It-
the Kleenex.
Oh.
And she's not just like
That's
ripping
the
it
wrong
apart
link,
because
too.
dogs often like to rip things apart, right? She's not just ripping it apart and spitting it out. No, she's actually eating it.
This
Well,
was
she's a
actually
full bowl of high quality dog food. It's not generic dog food. It's not like the $75 for a 16-kilogram bag dog food, organic fucking, salmon and rice dog food that you can get for like super freaking allergic dogs, right? It's not that dog food. For dogs with like freaking autoimmune disorders and shit. No, but it's still good dog food. It's like Purina One. It's like the freaking, oh god, what's the other one called? Anyhow, it's good. It's good quality dog food. It's fucking good quality dog food. It's sitting in her bowl and she's eating a fucking Kleenex.
She
What the
prefers your
fuck is
snot.
with this dog?
all right.
Prefers your
Well,
snot.
we've got the correct news story up now. I may have managed to post the wrong link, I guess. Meaning that when I copy pasted one link and posted it in one place, and then went to copy paste and post another link in another place, and didn't notice that the copy hadn't copied, which happens to me all the time with my old desktop computer, which is dying. So, the reason that I call this Freeze Peaches is because this is a news story about the Louisiana governor signing a campus free speech bill into law. These bills have been they've been coming into play in several states and on several university campuses, and regressives are going apeshit. They are pissed. They don't want free speech on college campuses. They don't want to be able to, or to not be able to use "you have offended me" to shut down discussion on political issues. And so, with laws being passed that campuses cannot prevent political speech in the open public areas of their campus, these guys are pretty much, they're losing a power that they think is a right, because they don't recognize the right to peaceful assembly, and they don't recognize the right to political discussion, to open political discussion. And they don't realize that is really all the First Amendment was written to protect in terms of public speech, was political discussion, criticism of the government, discussion of political issues, discussion of political positions, and so on. So here we have Louisiana is working on this with this free speech bill, and it has some technical issues, but it's still a victory in that at least we are seeing a government entity basically stepping forward to say, yes, university students are not to be silenced. They are allowed, and they must be allowed to engage in political discourse. So here is the actual article. Last week, Louisiana Governor John Bell Edwards signed into law SB 364, a bill to protect student expression at public college campuses in the state. The bill passed with bipartisan support in the Louisiana legislature, with votes of 58 to 25 in the House of Representatives and 33 to 0 in the Senate. While the bill helpfully protects several important aspects of campus free expression, it contains some technical errors that need to be resolved. Hopefully, the bill declares that the outdoor areas of a public post-secondary education shall be deemed traditional public forums and opened to expressive activities. This provision, along with following language, eliminates so-called free speech zones at public institutions of higher education in Louisiana. The free speech zone thing, that was essentially colleges saying you can only have free speech in limited areas that are designated by the university, and we're going to put them in these remote little locations. So if students walking to and from class don't want to hear your political perspectives, you can only talk about them way over there in the corner of the campus, far away from all of the buildings and everything that hasn't been developed yet, but we just own the land. And now they can't do that. Louisiana therefore joins Virginia, Missouri, Arizona, Kentucky, Colorado, Utah, North Carolina, Tennessee, Florida, and Georgia in banning public colleges and universities from regulating student expression to free speech zones. SB 364 also protects belief-based student organizations by prohibiting a university from discriminating against or otherwise punishing those organizations that require its leaders and members of the organization to affirm or adhere to the organization's sincerely held beliefs. This provision provides an important protection for freedom of association at Louisiana's public post-secondary education institutions. What that one's all about is there was, if I remember right, there was actually a lawsuit on this, but there was a university that decided that, if I remember right, a Christian organization could not require the leadership of the organization to be Christian, and were expected to allow, say, an atheist to have control over the activities and direction that the Christian organization would take. Or, the same thing could happen in a atheist club. They could say, well, yeah, but this Christian can now come in and be your club president, and so on. Unhelpfully, however, the law contains two conflicting standards for determining when time, place, and manner restrictions are permissible at public colleges and universities in the state. The first time the standard is mentioned, the bill states that a public post-secondary education institution may maintain and enforce reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions narrowly tailored in service of a significant institutional emphasis. Interest. Emphasis added is in parentheses after that, and my brain switched the two of them for a minute. This is the standard used by the United States Supreme Court. However, the second time the standard is mentioned, the bill states that time, place, and manner restrictions must be necessary to achieve a significant institutional interest. Emphasis added again. So first we have narrowly tailored in service of a significant institutional interest, and the second one we have is necessary to achieve a significant institutional interest. So that the difference being one describes purpose and the other describes need. These conflicting standards are likely to make it difficult for students, administrators, and courts to determine the appropriateness of time, place, and manner restrictions on campuses. FIRE is pleased that the legislature and governor provided important protections for student expression at public institutions of higher education in Louisiana, and we stand ready to assist legislators in addressing the technical issues in the bill during the next legislative session. So that's the article. I don't know if anybody wants to take a look at the bill, but I consider this a major victory that this is happening. And everyone is silent.
Well,
you had a very long sausage just before.
Yeah, I know. I wore everybody out with my long sausage, didn't I?
I'm still gagging on it.
I had a comment, but I forgot it.
I actually have to go pretty quick here in a couple of minutes because I have to pack for tomorrow. I have to leave early in the morning, and my day was disrupted by last minute freaking gigs that I hate having a publicist. I'm sorry.
You have a
Then why
publicist?
did you accept one?
That wasn't me.
I didn't do nothing.
Okay, so there's this lawyer in Washington D.C. He hosted at his law firm's offices a false allegations summit that was going on the same weekend as that 2012 National Organization for Women conference that I went to, right? So anyhow, and he's very involved in the Men's Health Network and all of that, right? So he's this like extremely well-to-do lawyer in Washington D.C., and he decided he was going to hire a publicist for certain people within the men's movement, particularly me and Paul Nathanson, to get us spots on radio shows and stuff. So that's like 90% of what I've been doing lately. That's why I haven't been making any videos, is because like sometimes I have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning so I can be actually coherent by 5 o'clock, because 5 o'clock is 7 o'clock, which is like drive time, commuter freaking morning traffic radio in Pennsylvania, right? And so that's my life now.
I used to do a morning radio show when I was at college. Your friend that hired you, the publicist. If he's doing that you said he's doing a conference on false allegations?
No, he did one in 2012.
Okay. If he ever does one again, I can actually give you or him the name of the attorney from the 7 Years in Hell case.
Yeah, no, I would absolutely like. I can actually hook you up with him if you want. I don't want to say his name here because I don't know exactly how public his profile is. But yeah, he's just decided to spend his own money to try and get certain people who are, I guess, well spoken and come across as, you know.
Well, if he's giving people publicists, I don't want you to draw his attention to me because I can't do what you do. I can't go places and speak like that. I have another job that I don't want to stop.
No, he's
Do you get money from that, from those speaking engagements?
No. I mean, they're just phone interviews, and in fact, some of them, a few of them, I have had to call into, so I'm paying the long distance fees to call into them. But it's you know, like I see it as worth it because it's like virgin audiences, right?
Yeah.
It's virgin bums on seats, and like if I can actually get people thinking about stuff, and I've had like lots of re-invites. I've done Steve Gruber a bunch of times. I've done Keith Hansen a couple of times. I've done Jimmy Lakey a couple of times. You know, like so it's like these people are actually, when a topic comes up, like this week it was the Miss America pageant, getting rid of the bikini competition and the evening gown thing. And, but I mean, there's all kinds of weirdness going on there because Gretchen Carlson, who made those decisions as the person in charge of the Miss America pageant, she sued Roger Ailes for sexual harassment, got a settlement out of it. He had to step down because of that. And she's a champion of the Me Too movement. So it's sort of kind of like it's part of this ongoing thing. We had the Grid Girls and the other kinds of female sort of eye candy positions in the UK in sports.
That were under attack.
Those are under attack, and a lot of them are being eliminated. Then we had the NFL cheerleaders, the Me Too movement, and in the climate of Me Too, there's this push to get rid of NFL cheerleaders, of whom there are maybe 900 in the entire frickin' United States.
That attack includes people suddenly being outraged over the rules included in the agreements that the cheerleaders sign, that are there to establish a defense for the cheerleader against sexual harassment, and that are there to prevent conflict between the cheerleaders and the football players. because they're claiming that the non-fraternization rules, which you have in every frickin' workplace, are sexist and are an attack on the cheerleaders' sexuality.
Well, but they're also, I mean, like the Washington Redskins cheerleaders are launching. There's an investigation going on into like they threatened a lawsuit.
Yeah.
And then the Washington Redskins said, okay, we're going to actually look into this. And some of the things that these cheerleaders were asked to do would be above and beyond, I would think.
But they see those in the contract when they sign the contract. They make that decision themselves.
No, above and beyond what was in the contract.
Oh, what was in the contract? Okay, that's a different story. No, what's under attack is like there's been news discussions of this, specific things that actually are in the contract, like when you work for an employer for whom you are a public face, like you're a representative, you're a sales rep, or something along those lines. You make an agreement a lot of times with that employer for that, since you are representing the company, certain types of conduct, certain types of, you're not going to have a tattoo on your face, you're not, stuff like that.
The Washington Redskins thing was essentially that these women were being essentially used as escorts for high-profile, large donors.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no.
The thing that made the news
sexual
here.
Escorts, but
the thing that made this, no. That has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the contract themselves being under attack, and they are portraying the requirement that the cheerleaders comport themselves in a particular manner when they're in the public eye, and the requirement that they not do things like post nude Instagram pictures and stuff like that because they're well known. They're treating that publicly on the news. They're treating that like an infringement on their rights and their freedoms, an attack on them as women and things like that.
One of the interesting things about this thing with the Miss America pageant is there was a recent winner, Mallory fucking something, I forget what her last name was. But could you turn that off or put your earbuds in just for a second? You can. Mallory something or other, right? And she was actually garnering a reputation as being like a big old slut, right? Like she put on 20 pounds after she won the crown in 2015 or whatever it was. And so, I mean, like she was getting all kinds of, grief in the media as far as, those annoying whose beach body is this, which celebrity's beach body is this kind of covers of the tabloids that women tend to buy so they can gloat it over other women. They can, have schadenfreude, sweet, savage schadenfreude over other women getting fat. But on top of that, she had a reputation for, sleeping around while she was Miss America, and that's not okay, right? And the CEO of the Miss America pageant was ousted in December of last year because of, I guess you would say, unfortunately worded emails to and from him. Dealing with former Miss Americas who were
I know about that.
Poorly reflecting.
We talked about that on the we talked about that on the the HBR news show.
Yeah. And then this Gretchen Carlson, who's essentially taken over the whole operation. Right, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like trying to explain to these guys, like, regardless of whether you, like these guys on the radio, regardless of whether you think that she's in the right or in the wrong, this is not a good move. This is not a good business move. You're looking at an organization that was in the red, like 10 years ago, that has only just become a going concern again. It has competitors in the market. it is in a reascendancy. It is rising out of the ashes, largely due to this CEO who was ousted in December, right? And they're going to do a complete overhaul and turn it into something completely different. What's going to happen to the Miss America organization while there's a Miss USA organization out there that still has a bikini competition? And I literally said, because they're revamping the ball gown thing, the evening gown thing, right? And saying essentially, wear whatever you choose that reflects who you are as a person and makes you feel confident. And I said, I'm really hoping that there are a couple of contestants this year that thumb their nose at all of this bullshit and wear a bikini in that.
There you go.
Because that would be spectacular.
You know what's really funny about it is, I mean, they're wigging out over bikinis, just bikinis and bathing suits, right? Over these women being looked at in bikinis and bathing suits in a competition. Now, mind you, this competition's been around for, hopefully I'm not getting it mixed up, but at least one of them's been around so far back that bathing suits, you know, like, yeah, bathing suits were dramatically different, and they used to wear cone-shaped bras under them, and like,
and shit. Yeah.
This has been around for a long time, and back when it first started, you know, it was a lot harder to get a hold of porn. Now, looking at a woman in a bathing suit is just about nothing. It's meaningless. It's an absolute meaningless freak out, because every single guy that might be oogling those girls up on the stage in their bathing suits can get on the internet and find pictures of women who look remarkably like them deep-throating 2 or 3 guys in a row, you know, for fun. And I look at it too, like I've said to everybody that I've talked to about this recently, right? Like it you know, like go and look at the actual group pictures for every year, right, of Miss America, and I guarantee you it's never the best looking woman who wins, right? Like, you know, even if you allow for subjectivity, you know, and, you know, I find this type of woman and this woman isn't my type or whatever, right? You know, like, it's never it's never based only on how physically attractive the woman is. It's based on the entire package, right? Which, you know, involves being asked a question, which is often sort of a politically sensitive question, without having that question disclosed to you beforehand, and then coming up with an answer and exhibiting some grace under pressure and all of that stuff, right? So I mean, like, it's never been only about the woman's physical appearance. It's been about the whole package, which is a balancing of how attractive how attractive they are, right? How smart they are, how quick on their feet they are, how much charm they have. Right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not about ogling, but even if it was, they're not going to stop men from ogling women by you know, eliminating the bathing suit competition. All they're going to do is take one thing out. What are they going to put in to replace it? And the thing is, the bathing suit competition was never the most interesting thing about these types of competitions, these pageants and everything. They have a whole series of things the women do, and the most entertaining things are usually, what crazy ass thing do they come up with for the entertainment portion, their talent show, you know, that they're going to do.
Show
and what crazy ass question are they going to get asked, and how fast are they going to be on their feet answering that question? Those are, like, most of the time people watch these shows anymore, they watch to see what these women come up with that they think nobody's ever tried before, or that they're especially good at, and they watch to see who's going to fuck that question up the worst.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you know, like it is kind of like, you know, I'm not going to say that Susan Boyle could win the Miss America pageant, right, by singing, a song from Les Miserables, right? No, she probably couldn't win just based on that, but she won Britain's Got Talent, didn't she?
Yep.
And so essentially, and Gretchen Carlson said, we've had women who've, written to us to say, we'd really love to be part of your organization, but we don't feel comfortable walking around in a bikini and high heels. And it's like, okay, so maybe our organization isn't for you. Find something else, right? Go on America's Got Talent, become a Susan Boyle, right? Like, it's.
Hello, sir. We love your organization. We love your coffee shop, but we really hate when you serve coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or else we won't work with you.
We love your bagel shop, but we hate your bagels.
Like the whole thing is just so stupid, and the idea that the entire thing is based on the woman's looks can be disproved by every single freaking victory over the last 10, 20, 30 years, right? Where it wasn't the best looking woman who won. It was the one who was the most had the greatest balance of all of the aspects, right? And looks were a portion of that, but they weren't the whole fucking thing, right? Otherwise, Gretchen Carlson wouldn't have won. I'll tell you that much right now. So, and she's a former Miss America winner, right? So I'm just like, I'm just blown away by like this whole fucking thing, and then, oh God, what's the other one? The other topic that I've been discussing is the Samantha Bee / Roseanne Barr thing, right? If Roseanne Barr's show deserves to be canceled, shouldn't Samantha Bee's show deserve to be canceled for calling Ivanka Trump a cunt? And I'm like, no, not for calling her a cunt. Maybe for insinuating that she has an inappropriate sexual relationship with her own father. Maybe that.
Isn't it telling? Isn't it telling though that like all of the pundits in the United States, except for a very small few, yeah, they all were upset about the C word. Almost none of them brought up that she suggested that there was an inappropriate
short and tight and talk to your dad.
Like really, that's not the most upsetting thing. The word cunt, the meaningless, oh yeah, so she said cunt. Everybody gets all bent out of shape over cunt, but not how about you engage in this incestuous. I'm sorry, but
how beautiful your daughter is.
Jesus.
Anyhow, I gotta go because my dog won't shut up. My husband won't shut up, and my son.
No, it's you won't shut up.
Oh, there you go. That's what it is. Karen won't shut the fuck up. But I do have to go because I have to get started packing and stuff. So.
Well, Karen,
my God!
She is
we'll
the
say
queen
goodnight to
of
Karen.
the MRA.
But we will continue the broadcast. So
okay,
we've complained about the lack of expression on the Miss America pageantry, and I think we've pretty much. I don't know if anybody had any comments regarding expression on campus, discussion on campus, or anything, but you can see that it's under attack everywhere. Every type of expression, particularly expressions involving any kind of non-regressive ideas and any kind of positive view of male heterosexuality. But I don't know. What else? Does anybody else have any comments on it before I go on with other things? I take the silence as a no. So since I put the wrong link, apparently, into the actual... yeah, I did. We might as well discuss that article too, if you guys have time. Any objections?
No.
Okay.
No objections.
This headline is very badly worded. The college fix. I don't know who wrote the headline. I don't know if the writer, the associate editor who wrote the story did or not, but college student who invented gang rape sentenced to a year in prison. I'm sitting there thinking, gang rape is nothing new, and I don't know if college existed when it first started. I think ducks invented it, but in any case, so I will put a link to this article in the chat.
A gang rape entrepreneur.
Gang rape entrepreneur, woohoo! Yeah. Let's see. Oh, I'm missing stuff in the chat because I don't have Discord open on the other computer. One of these days I'll actually set up a mic so I can say things. And it is that Discord Badger Mom from the future. Oh, was that the image that I had up, the chick that I had up in the window for a few minutes? That was Weird Talents.
No.
Okay.
No, I think it's what I added in.
Ah.
I put an article that covered the openly transgender candidate that ran for the U.S. House of Delegates, the Virginia House of Delegates.
Oh, I see.
She was in Northern Virginia, so she's not my district.
Ah.
I was asking, what's her policies for the the roads, and they're like, some people just don't understand.
That's a strange policy. I mean, you know, most people, roads aren't that hard to understand, although I've run into a few drivers that don't. Or rather, they almost ran into me.
Of course, that was on Twitter. It came across like they thought that I was doubting her platform or something.
Yeah, how dare you ask a politician's platform? Don't you know you're supposed to just vote for the particularly underdog
the one that
candidate?
checks the most boxes.
Yeah. Well, that's how Obama won. You ask what his policies are, and people are like, "You're racist."
In fact, she makes that comment in the article.
Jeez.
This is like Obama.
Yeah. Yes. Obama's the greatest thing that's ever come to American politics. Really? Why? You racist! Okay. Alrighty then. I guess you didn't really want me to vote for him. But, yeah. And we have a comment in the chat. Roads aren't that hard to understand. Wow, Hannah throwing shade at French Honey Badger. No, I didn't say he didn't understand roads. I was talking about women drivers. In any case. Okay, so college student who invented
I think
gang
the
rape.
politician has it.
There we go.
Sorry.
Politicians suck. Some are better at it than others. College student who invented gang rape, sentenced to a year in prison. So, it's that chick that, the backstory on this is she was at a party and she had, I guess a three-way with two guys or something like that, and then came out and told everybody that they raped her, but actually she had just had sex with them, and she didn't want to be embarrassed. The university didn't wait for evidence first, they just went ahead and punished him. So, Nikki Jovino was facing 6 years in prison on charges of falsely reporting she was raped and tampering with or fabricating physical evidence. Thanks to a last-minute plea deal, the former Sacred Heart University student will only face one, maybe not even that long. Connecticut Post reports that Jovino agreed to plead guilty to 2 counts of second-degree falsely reporting an incident and 1 count of interfering with police, all misdemeanors. Notably, the prosecutors and judge in the case are all female. We are prepared to go to trial on the original felony charge, but after lengthy discussions with all parties involved in considering all outside factors, this was an appropriate disposition that will hopefully set a precedent about how serious the state takes this conduct. Senior Assistant State's Attorney Titania. Yep, that's Titania. What a name. That's the name of the DM's fake girlfriend character in the second Dead Alewives Dungeons and Dragons broadcast. Titania Messina told the judge, "The important thing is that the victims are happy with the disposition," added Assistant State's Attorney Emily Trudeau. Under the plea bargain, Jovino will be sentenced August 23rd to 3 years suspended after she serves 1 year in prison and followed by 3 years probation. You understand? You will be serving 1 year in jail, the judge asked her. Yes, Jovino said, nodding. The young
I believe it's pronounced Tatiana.
Tatiana?
Yeah.
Yep, that's good. No, it's T-I-T. Yeah, it is. Okay, it's not AI. Well, there goes. The more tired I get, the more dyslexic. I saw IA as AI. Even when I looked at it this last time, I really had to look to not see those letters switched. But that's the way it goes. Under the plea bargain, Jovino will be sentenced August 20th. Oh, I already read that part. The young woman will get credit for the time she's already served. That's pretty normal. Prior to the sentencing hearing, though. So she'll likely spend less than a year in jail. Well, technically she won't if she's been in jail for a while. It's just she won't spend it all at once. Jovino had accused 2 Sacred Heart football players of taking turns raping her in a bathroom at a party, but after witnesses told police that the sex was consensual, she admitted that she had invented the gang rape because she wanted sympathy from a potential boyfriend. Jovino's decision to report to police rather than campus authorities likely doomed her, since colleges are much less likely to look for or act on inconsistencies in claims by accusers. The Catholic University's claims that it neither expelled nor stripped the players of their scholarships because of any allegations have been challenged by both police and the Post. It has yet to face any reckoning for punishing the players before any adjudication, though it settled an earlier lawsuit by a local man for wrongly putting his name and photo on leaflets it distributed after reported off-campus rape. As part of that settlement, it publicly apologized to the man. And that's the entire article. So, regarding the time, and I know people are probably going to be upset that she didn't get the full 6 years. This is actually kind of common with all kinds of crimes. It's incredibly expensive to prosecute any crime, especially if we're going from misdemeanor to felony. It becomes even more. And not only is there the court time, you have to pay the prosecutor. You got to the prosecutor also can bill for expenses related to the case, including research expenses and so on. You also have to pay the jury. You got to pay the judge and so on. So plea bargaining is almost entirely how criminal prosecution takes place. And what ends up happening is they get people to plead guilty by threatening them with the maximum sentence, however long it can be. So, like with the Brian Banks case, he served 5 years. Feminists would have been absolutely outraged that he only served 5 years for a rape. And the reality is they threatened him with like 25 or 30 years to get him to plead guilty to a crime he didn't commit, and they didn't have enough evidence to convict him if he hadn't pled guilty. They just had the girl's word. And so it's not surprising to see this plea bargain down to a year. They most likely threatened her with 6 years to get that year.
Go through all that, and then you get a sorry.
Yeah. I know. In this case, it's not a false allegation. She did exactly what they're accusing her of. They do have evidence. They could have socked her with a longer sentence, but the fact is, they probably wouldn't have. She probably would have. They probably would have fought all of this battle, gone to court, to get the inevitable result of maybe a 6 month longer to maybe a year longer sentence. And if she acts like a model prisoner, huh?
So she probably would have served half of that.
Yeah, if she acts like a model prisoner, she's not going to serve as much time. And they may also be considering, did they get it across to her that she can't do this again? And if they did, they're not going to go after her nearly as hard. as if they don't think that they got it across to her that she can't do this again. So those are probably factors that were involved. But you also have the gynocentric system that deals more lightly with female perpetrators than male perpetrators. So it's quite possible if this was a man who had an equivalent crime, maybe not rape, but accused a couple of women or just a couple of other guys of, say, breaking into his house and stealing a dollar amount that would be put them at a felony level equal to that of rape, or beating him up and stealing a dollar amount or something like that, where the court would have taken the crime as seriously as the court takes rape, he might have gotten more time. Just based on the evidence of how other crimes are adjudicated, he might have gotten, you know, a significant amount more time. So this is, on one hand, this is par for the course with courts because of how they plea bargain. But on the other hand, it's also par for the course with courts because of how they are more lenient toward women than they are towards men.
Well, she's sorry. She's not.
She looks totally sorry. This poor, sorry, smirking. She's like,
She
I don't
feels
know.
bad enough.
Yeah. I hope that she's figured out anyway that if nothing else, she's set herself up so that now if she ever does get raped, there's going to be doubt in her case because it's on record that she lied about it before.
I'm actually thinking Mattress Girl.
Yeah.
Like, just don't ignore all the texts. But she sent it basically just begging.
Yeah. See, this kind of thing, actually, in terms of legal reform, for the most part, I hate to agree with a feminist on things, but Germaine Greer had a point when she said that sexual violence really doesn't need to be its own separate category in terms of assaults on adults. It's an assault. If you traumatically assault somebody in a way that is injurious, whether or not a sexual assault was included in that assault, it is horribly traumatic. You know, the more injurious it is, the more endangered their life is, the more traumatic it is, the more terrified they are. It's not because sex is involved, it's because being in that level of danger is traumatic. I don't know any other way to put it. Having a gun pointed at you is traumatic. Having somebody tell you they're going to kill you, and you know they might, is traumatic. Being held down is traumatic. It doesn't matter if you're held down and touched inappropriately, and in other ways, just being held down when you don't want to be held down and you're trying to escape is traumatic. And I don't see any reason why we have to have a separate set of laws for that. And I think we would be much more sensible about sexual assault if we didn't make it its own separate special thing.
It annoys me that people just view it as sexual violence is always violence against women. It's not like men could suffer it.
Yeah, it just... That's the other end of it. Like, okay, eons ago, when a woman's value in society was intrinsically tied to her sexual reproduction, in ways that it's not quite as crippling now at all, because you can go out and get your own job and have a career, you can support yourself, and you can support yourself and a child as a woman without a man's help, as well as a man could support a family if you put your mind and your body to it, right? There was a time when it was unusual for women who didn't have to do that. And if they tried, because it was so unusual, it was harder because since it was men who were responsible for supporting families, men got paid more. even if women worked hard. That actually is true. The law didn't have anything to do with it. It was I mean, there was law, or there wasn't law or whatever, but it was a societal thing. An employer, in order to entice a man to work for him, had to pay him enough to support his family. A woman would work for less, so women got paid less. But we don't have any of those circumstances now. So the trauma of, and women can have abortions now, and it's modern medicine has gotten to the point now where it's a rare thing for either childbirth or abortion to be dangerous for a woman. Modern medicine is pretty much eliminated. It's like 1 in 1,000 or something like that. Serious injuries or death that were unavoidable due to pregnancy or abortion. And the stigma of being a single mom, the stigma of being the mother of a rape baby, and any inability to find somebody else to raise the baby that might have existed in the past, those are all gone. All of the things that could have made valid arguments towards saying, well, rape is more traumatic for women, those conditions aren't present in today's society. Like, women have a choice regarding all of those conditions. But, the assault itself, the thing that is left that's traumatic about the assault itself, the violation of your bodily autonomy, the physical threat, the danger, the mistreatment of it, that applies to both sexes. We might process it differently, but it's the same thing regardless of whether the body you're violating is male or female. There's literally no argument to treat rape as more traumatic towards a woman anymore.
Oh, I was thinking the cases where the biological father wants the child, but then the mother puts it to adoption.
Yeah. That's,
and I think it was a family member.
Yeah, that's horrible. And Utah actually lets it happen. It's supposed to be illegal, but it still happens.
Well, I was watching one thing where the mother moved and the father had something like 13 hours to get there, and he was 4 states away.
Yeah. Yep, that's one where if we're gonna have family laws, and we're gonna make fathers responsible under family laws for their children, then the law needs to protect fathers from having their children taken away from them like that. If the law is not going to protect fathers from having their children taken away from them like that, or from the mothers withholding contact and withholding custody, then maybe we could just eliminate all family law.
Seems like one person was pointing out that you have feminist judges that view men the same as the old judges do when it comes to parenting.
And the judges, between the tenure years doctrine going through and modern judges, those old judges.
Although I guess at this point they might just all be feminists but not call themselves feminists.
Well, you have this situation of, since the Violence Against Women Act passed, all court personnel, including judges, all prosecutors, all cops, they all get training that it's mainly the Duluth model regarding domestic violence and sexual violence, but it is essentially gender studies for the legal profession.
Yeah, because I looked at the chart and it's like women can do that too.
Oh yeah, but so yeah, they're gonna be biased. That bias is trained into them, and they're trained under the law to see that bias as not being bias, and to actually see being unbiased as a bias. So I mean, it's going to take a lot to change that.
I was thinking of the Equal Rights Amendment. It's like the stuff they added to it. It's like they took something that was good and just put a whole bunch of extra crap on top of it that just pushes the reasonable people away because they're like, wait a minute, what does this?
The Equal Rights Amendment is a trick. And most people don't see this in the men's rights movement, and I get a lot of flack for talking about it this way, but the 14th Amendment, I believe it is, and the 5th Amendment contain everything that is needed in terms of civil rights protections against discrimination. And between those two, we're protected against discrimination by the government for being part of any of the protected demographics. What the Equal Rights Amendment does is it reiterates that, but then says the government has power, the Congress has power to make laws based on the amendment. What people who support it fail to think of or don't recognize is what the amendments to the Constitution were supposed to do was limit the government's powers, not describe them. So the previous amendments that are equal rights amendments, their job was to prevent the government, under federal law, from discriminating. So Uncle Sam can't come along and say a law applies only to one sex or the other. The Equal Rights Amendment would give Uncle Sam the right to say Walmart can now be sued under the Constitution for paying men and women differently. And the Equal Rights Amendment would pave the way for things like the government saying, well, we think that a janitor and a manager do the same amount of work. So if you have a female janitor and a male manager, you can't pay the janitor less than you pay the manager. That's what the Equal Rights Amendment's going to do. It's not going to protect men from discrimination. It's going to protect the government from limitations.
I want to point out a couple things. First off, the Constitution in and of itself does not necessarily make laws that it provides the organization of the government and says, like, for example, the government has the right to set up what's this called patent laws and stuff like that, and then you have to implement them into laws.
Right.
And amendments are not there to just limit the government. They're there to amend the Constitution, like change some parts of it, like saying senators are elected with the popular vote rather than by the constituency. It's just that the first 10 amendments that were created were there to limit
the government's powers. Yeah.
Make it explicit that the powers of the government were limited.
Well, what ends up happening with the Equal Rights Amendment, though, is it's a direct contradiction to that limitation.
Sure. But that would be an amendment, right? That would change the core of the Constitution, which is obviously something that you should avoid because that's a bad law. That's
Yes.
a bad amendment.
Yes, that's just it. It'd be like, you come in. You're going to come into this office. There's 3 rules in this office. The first rule is that everyone in this office is equal. Okay. The second rule is that everyone in this office is free to contribute to the way this office is run and the decision-making process in this office. Rule number 3, the boss is always right. Now, if you have rule number 3, do rule number 1 and 2 mean anything anymore?
Well, rule number 3 is called the proper and necessary clause, I believe.
Mm-hmm. The proper and necessary clause. See, and like all of this, we got to change the Constitution.
Clause.
We got to change the Constitution because we don't like the way things are. We got to change the Constitution because we don't like the way things are. No, you don't. Change social attitudes. changing social attitudes makes changing the Constitution entirely unnecessary. You know, unless the Constitution has something really bad in it, like the Temperance Amendment, which created organized crime, or not all organized crime, but a particular brand of organized crime in the United States that has outlived the amendment by generations now, and will continue to go on forever.
That's because they replaced the prohibition of alcohol with the prohibition of drugs.
Well, the mafia's still around. I mean, there's, you know...
Yeah, but now they're concentrating on drugs. That's the thing.
But I mean, even if they hadn't, the mafia would still be around because they could concentrate on things like money laundering and all the other stuff. But, and the bad thing is, in order to get rid of them, we'd have to get rid of law at this point, because anything that's illegal is going to create a black market, and they'll serve that black market. But yeah.
I'm not against disbanding the DA personally.
There you go. I wouldn't mind getting rid of the DEA. I wouldn't mind getting rid of almost every government agency we have. I could go. I don't think we need a federal department for education. We don't need the federal government governing our education system at all.
It's actually more destructive than else.
But,
well, I was thinking the one movie that was like the start of the FBI. I'm like, oh my god,
yeah,
they're the mafia.
Yes, the FBI is a gang. That's gonna get us shut down right there.
They're using the same torture attacks as the mafia would use. Like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I probably should stop broadcasting now.
Yeah,
we can go to Ancapistan from here. That's about all that's left to do. But yeah, when it comes to situations like this, going back to the story, because of all this, it really doesn't shock me that this girl got 1 year instead of 6. I'm actually really stoked that she was prosecuted at all, and that she plea bargained. Doesn't bother me. I'm pleased that meant that she was sentenced, because now it's established in a court of law that a woman has been sentenced to jail for falsely accusing rape, and hopefully that'll put the fear of God into a couple of false accusers. Maybe not. They might need a few more incidents like this to learn that lesson. But hey, you know, you know, if we're gonna have the things the way they are now, I wouldn't be horribly opposed to putting right up side by side with the sex offender list that shouldn't exist, a list of false accusers, a publicly available list of false accusers. In fact, I think that's a more legitimate list to have. If we're going to have lists, that's a more legitimate list, because then if somebody gets accused and they know they're falsely accused, they can look on that list, just like somebody can look somebody up on the vexatious litigant list. And false accusations are a form of vexatious litigation, so that's fitting. And then they can take that into court and say, look, this person is designated in this area in Ohio or wherever as a vexatious litigant. This person has been labeled a false accuser. This person has already done this before. You cannot take her word. She has to have more evidence than that. And I think that would be appropriate. If we're gonna have these kind of lists, that list needs to exist. But with that, unless anybody has anything to add to that, I think I'm gonna take us... Oop, does somebody have something to add?
I was thinking of one thing that we need to get rid of is the Controlled Substance Act.
Absolutely.
We have things on there that were just brought in that were left over from previous moral panics.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
I like how heroin was...
Get rid of the APA entirely.
Yeah.
It's a terrible institution.
I like how it's heroin and marijuana are basically listed in the same category, and it's like they're not the same.
No, they're not. No, and then when people talk
Well,
about heroin
it's like
today,
cocaine.
they're not talking about heroin at the beginning of the 20th century either.
Yeah,
They're talking about heroin with fentanyl added to it.
highly synthetic.
And yeah, it's a totally different thing, and it's deadly. Sometimes, in fact, frequently the first time people use it. But that's definitely a discussion for another show. So I am going to thank you all and say.
Also, the woman that now that I look at her, it looks like Dolores from Westworld.
Oh God. But it's not her. It's not her. Just saying. Thank you all for listening, and good night.
Night.